Talking with people with music in their genes, their blood, and in their soul. You are watching Musical Interlude. Hi, welcome to Musical Interlude. I'm your host, Casey Bell. Musical Interlude is a show where I get to interview people who work in the music business. This is the first episode. Today's guest, he is the artist, got his start singing in church as well as singing in the school choir. Come along with me as we go through his music journey. He is the artist is an American Christian singer-songwriter from Central Islip, New York. Formerly a secular neo-soul singer signed to Bentley Records under his biological name Lehman Bassey, He Is the Artist discovered that his true calling was with the Lord after hearing an inspiring sermon by T.D. Jakes online one day. That day he was inspired to teach the world about the Lord like T.D. Jakes did with his sermon, but through music. His single Boom, Remastered, hit #1 on the Christian gospel charts in South Africa. New EP Roots drops on November 27th. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome He Is the Artist. What was your earliest memory of getting into music and realizing you had some type of musical talent?
Well, I started out singing in the choir. I'm big in church, but actually, probably in high school. So I basically started in high school. My concert choir teacher, Mr. Anthony, he was a wonderful choir director. Really got on us and really had us singing, and I really enjoyed it. He was definitely a big influence in me starting my music career. And actually, that was Central Islip High School. So that was my high school, Elmer Allen.
Okay, and what made you to decide to make this a career, to do it full time as opposed to just doing it as a hobby?
Well, I was actually discovered online by a local producer. He actually went to my high school, and he actually produced he heard me singing covers online for fun, and then he had me come into a studio, and we made my first single, which was called Honey, and it was very well received, and that really motivated me to keep going, and I got on the radio. That was the first time I got on the radio, and I was so excited, and I just kept putting out EPs from then on.
Okay, so you have a series of songs that is, I guess you can say, in honor or dedicated to Adam and Eve. What inspired you? How did the idea come about to make those songs?
Well, I was first singing very sexualized music, and then I went through a lot of soul searching and went back into the church, and really I went on a journey. So my song Boom was actually still jazz inspired. My first single, Honey, was actually smooth jazz inspired, but I wanted to make Christian music that I actually resonated with and that I actually really enjoyed, and that's how that really came about. It's a smooth jazz inspired it's a smooth jazz inspired album, but with a big religious influence to it. And Adam and Eve is all about temptation, and I wanted to bring a little bit of myself, my journey with temptation and the whole sexualization thing that I went through musically, and really bring it to life, and to really channel that, and to really bring a story, a cohesive story that actually relates to me in my life, and that can relate to others.
Okay. And are you working on any music right now? Any projects?
Yes, I have an upcoming EP called Roots. It's actually very different than my original one. My brother is very different than Adam and Eve. It's Americana. It's inspired. It has a country influence to it. My single "Landslide," which is a cover of the Fleetwood Mac song, and it's just very different. It really brings you. Makes people question about their own roots and about growth, and that's what life is all about. It's all about growth.
Okay, and any advice to anyone out there who has musical talent but is not being encouraged by maybe family and friends to pursue it, any advice you have for them? Encouraging words?
Definitely pray about it and make sure it's really right for you, and make sure that it's. And I'm very religious when it comes to those things, and I know that God gives us those gut feelings and those that intuition, that when something is right for us, and you have to really go with that, and you have to really find it within yourself. You can't really rely on other people. Honestly, to have a real, you have to always rely on yourself and God, and God gives you that intuition for a reason, and he's going to push you no matter what, if you just listen to that gut instinct inside of yourself. And it doesn't have to be with music. It could just be with anything. Just pray about it and just go with your gut instinct, because I don't want people to think that music is the only thing you can do. You can do anything, um, anything in the world, as long as it's okay with you and okay with God and okay with your gut instinct that He gives to you.
Okay, thank you.
And I want people to yeah, absolutely, yes. Yes, and
Go
I
ahead.
want people to develop cure for cancer. I want people to just really, not just music. There's a lot of other things out there. And just I want people to be leaders. I want people to be presidents. I want people to be all sorts of things in the world. And and you just have to pray about it, and just have to believe that your gut instinct is the right thing, and what God wants you to do.
Well, I ain't afraid of changing, 'cause I build my life around you. The time makes me bolder. Even children get older, and I'm getting older too. Well, I'm getting older. I'm getting older. Well, I ain't afraid of changing, 'cause I build my life around you. The time makes me bolder.
Well, that is all the time we have left for this episode of Musical Interlude. Thank you for watching, and I hope you join us again for another episode. Have a wonderful day. Essays from Dysfunctional Families, a book written by Dean K. Brent exposing his family's and friends' secrets. Literary Betrayal is his family's and friends' reactions. 2 books and 1, uniquely written by author Casey Bell. Available now. Hi, and welcome to Business Assistant Moment. This is where we give you some ideas and tips you can use for your business. If you are an independent business and are located in USA, United States of America, there is a organization you should know about. If you don't, most people do, but if you don't, it's called SBA, or Small Business Administration. It's the U.S. Small Business Administration. So it was created in 1953, and since then, the U.S. Small Business Administration has helped small businesses, owners, and entrepreneurs pursue their dreams. The SBA is the only cabinet-level federal agency fully dedicated to small business and provides counseling, capital, and contracting expertise as the nation's only go-to resource and voice for small businesses. That information can be found on their website, sba.gov. As said, they have many information on their website on funding, capital, even just counseling information, speaking to prior business owners, people in the business, people with experience. And they also have Learning Center, local assistance. You can get assistance locally, federal contracting, a business guide. There are many options for you. So if you're just starting out, or you're midway, or you've been in it for a long time and you've never heard of SBA, it's definitely something you want to check out to see if it's right for your business. That is sba.gov, sba.gov. That is it for this moment of business assistant moment. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back right after this message.
Always been an entrepreneur by spirit. After over 2 decades in the corporate world, wanted to do something else, but during the COVID shutdowns was not an ideal time to try and make a switch. So I have very little experience with pools other than swimming in them. So the thought of shifting careers during this time, during this point in my life, after 20 years in the corporate world, was very scary. But the folks at Origin Clear made it very simple to walk right into an opportunity that allows me to make money, like right away, and be profitable within the first month. Typical drain, but they're going to drain your pool and it's going to potentially risk cracking. So that crack can lead to thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars in fees. Potentially I've heard anywhere from like $6,000 to $20,000 for maintenance and repair of structural type cracks. The advantages of this process are there's zero risk because all the water stays in the pool and it just flows right through the trailer and goes right back in with not affecting the water level. So I don't ever risk any kind of structural issues to the pool whatsoever. Saving and recycling all that water, it's a huge impact for the environment, especially here in the desert where there's always a constant drought. And then also the results are actually better than doing a drain and fill because our process removes the chlorine that come in with a bunch of other things. This takes all of that out of there and you have a perfectly balanced body of water. Honestly, it sells itself. As of right now, I have a rolling billboard behind me here with the trailer. The phone number, the website, a lot of pool professionals, whether it's the weekly pool maintenance guys or the pool stores around the valley. When folks go in and they need to change their water, or in the past required to drain their pool. So this is starting to become more and more talked about with pool professionals, and they'll offer this out to their customers, and I get a lot of calls that way. It was the cheapest, easiest, most streamlined business I've ever started with the least amount of overhead and the maximum amount of profits, honestly.
Hi, and welcome back to the Gold Mine. Our next segment, I am so excited to present to you an interview I had with Riggs Eckelberry, who is the CEO of Origin Clear. We had a wonderful talk on his journey through entrepreneurship and also his business, Origin Clear. Let's listen to the interview. Were you raised in an environment of entrepreneurship?
You know, my dad was a classic, Mad Men kind of guy. He was that generation that was, you came out of the war and you joined a company, in his case, Procter & Gamble, and kind of did your thing. But he always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And my grandfather was, again, a lawyer who wanted to be an entrepreneur. So there's all this desire in the family to be entrepreneurs, but I'm the one who actually did it.
What caused you to realize you wanted to take that pathway?
Well, I started out, in the nonprofit space, actually, and even ended up being a ship captain in the 70s. And I got to the early 80s and I realized that I really felt like I had a mission to do something with technology, that technology could transform the world, which we know it has, not always for the better. And so I decided to jump in with both feet first. And so it was not so much that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, is that I wanted to go all out in technology. And I'm the kind of guy that will just, jump in and then go, well, wait a minute, is the water deep enough, right?
What was your first challenge that you came across starting the road of entrepreneurship?
By far, the worst one was capital. I got myself way deep in Manhattan with like 12 people on payroll and cash flowing the whole business. I was doing computerizing companies in Manhattan. And at the time, everybody was being computerized. And really what ended up happening is that I lost faith in doing that because I didn't realize how much, let's say you get a company for the first time, you computerize them, well, you're going to keep them for maybe 20 years. And I didn't really fully realize that. And so I was looking at these incredibly tough implementations and going, this is ridiculous. So long story short is that I ended up giving that company to my best salesman, and he's a multimillionaire today. So, good for him. And that's really when I decided I needed to know more about how, just maybe learn before doing a little bit. And I spent the next few years learning a lot about marketing and business. And then I ended up in the .com, which was amazing. So big learning experience in the 80s, cash flow problems, discouragement, which really was unnecessary, just really wasn't looking far enough in the future. And I think that's a big lesson, is what about your business model can have a long-term annuity, a long-term cash flow from from customers, and get that business model. Don't just sell something and go away. That's really, really hard.
Okay. So what was your first inspiration that gave you the idea to create Origin Clear?
Well, it was actually really interesting because I'd been in the .com. I was a software guy, and now we come to the early 2000s, and I got involved with a company that was a software company, and I was the number 2, and we were taking it to the NASDAQ. In fact, we did. It went on the NASDAQ soon after I left it, but I got it all set up, and I was very restless, and I wanted to be a CEO. And a fund, this is, watch what you ask for. They said, sure, you can be a CEO. And so, excuse me, I ended up joining what was then called Origin Oil as co-founder, funded by this VC firm. And the weird thing is that we started out in algae as a biofuel, and only later turned repurposed into water when algae became basically, way too early as a fuel. So I guess my inspiration really was that I wanted to finally be a CEO of a public company, and watch what you ask for is what I always say.
This is not on the list of questions, but explain what this company is and what they do, what they offer.
Sure. So Origin Clear today is a company that is probably the most disruptive water company out there today, because what we have is we have a great technology for doing water treatment in new and special ways. We have a wonderful manufacturing site in Texas, but it gets more interesting because we've really become the number 1 company that delivers to the new decentralized water treatment. Just like energy has become decentralized, and telephones and computers, now water is becoming decentralized. And so we have these modular prefabricated water systems that get delivered on a truck, dropped in, and it's a revolution, kind of a Henry Ford type revolution for the water industry. And that is, I think, finally the kind of disruption that I'm looking to do in the water industry, because the water industry does not want to be disrupted, but it needs to be.
Awesome. Did you have any fears or just name one fear you remember the most starting out as an entrepreneur, and what did you do to conquer it, and what advice would you give to others on conquering fear?
There is a dread that comes up every 2 weeks. Payroll.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. I was like, oh my God, how do I get to, because again, it was self-funding. And two things I would say. Number one, I had the opportunity to get funded and I turned these opportunities down. So do get funding. It's a good thing. Number two is there's ways, I really didn't need to give up. This was my big learning experience at the time back in the 80s, which is, gosh, it's already 40 years ago. And that is that, you don't have to fail. You can persist, you can figure things out. And what it taught me though was a lot of toughness. I became incredibly tough after that. I was like, if I can handle trying to meet, a 12-person payroll in Manhattan every 2 weeks, I probably do anything.
Okay. Okay, so a young adult. I mean, I don't know if you've heard, but they've been talking about the colleges have their numbers have dropped, and the community college have dropped the most, and that a lot of students have dropped out. They're not going back. And I personally, people are shocked, but I'm like, so we see the government shut down, we saw recession, we've seen people who worked at a job for 30 years and then out of nowhere they get laid off. And it's like, so they keep saying, go to college, get a job, that's your promise. But we keep seeing things in now in this pandemic that a job is not a promise. And so what advice would you give someone who's been told you need to just get a job, but they're saying, I really want to try this entrepreneurship thing, and they're not getting any help from anyone, no encouragement from anyone? What words can you give them to at least a first step? Because we know you can't give them every step. The first step they can take to start their idea.
Well, this is, they're great points, by the way. And by the way, I love community colleges. It's terrible what's happening. I think community colleges are better than four-year colleges, in my opinion, because you get more concentrated benefit. Also, of course, trade schools. But the first step, I think, is figure out, what do you like, right? Are you a natural marketer, salesperson? Do you like to make things? I have a good friend who makes amazing, conference tables. He made one the other day out of rosewood, which is the guitar wood. Entire conference table was out of guitar wood. Stunning. He loves that, right? And he's made a business, and his wife does the selling, and it works. Why? Because they have high integrity. It's what he loves to do. So too often people go, oh, I'm going to go sell on Amazon, and turns out you don't really like it, right? So you got to find, I think, what you like to do. And that's where I think it's worth apprenticing, getting, just going out there and getting jobs in different fields that may not be high pay, but just to get you into an industry and get a feel for it. Do I like being a stockbroker? Do I like this? Do I like that? And I think that is better than just rushing in and deciding you can do X, Y, and Z. Personally, I love I love marketing. I think it's the way you can build huge successes is by doing marketing in a way that hones in on real needs. And I just think it's becoming more and more powerful these days with the social media and so forth. But other people might not be into that. So it's really start with that. And then, my second thing is, if you have a good basic education, then I think college, unless you're going to be a professional, is less and less important. What you need to do is go apprentice in the area that you like. And you might not get paid much, but early on is when you don't have much bills, right? You don't have that mortgage and you don't have kids and so forth. So make the investment in yourself early on and get to know the industry. And you might find out, I don't like stock brokerage so much. It's kind of whatever. So because, people think many times in my career, I've thought, I really screwed the pooch now. And I realized that careers are long. They go on and on and on and on. I was a ship captain in 1975, right? 1974, 75 at 22. That was that's, almost about 45 years ago. And I thought that I'd learned a lot. No, I hardly knew anything. So I think that the important thing is to be willing to experience a lot of things, find out what you really love to do, and focus on that.
Thanks for that. So in the process of creating Origin Clear, if you can remember, a mistake you made, and what did you learn from that mistake?
All right. The biggest mistake I made was that it's very hard to create a good engineering team. It's probably the toughest thing there is, be it software or brick and mortar, either way. And I tried to create one out of thin air, and it was very, very hard. In retrospect, since I had funding, it would have been smart to just purchased a small company with existing team. Buying versus building is very, very smart, because it takes years to build things. Now, maybe you don't have cash, so how do you do it? Well, you still can do partnerships. You still can do outsourcing, all kinds of ways. So the number one thing is that you've got to have if you're selling a product or a service, it's got to be super high quality. So you got to make sure that your delivery capability is excellent, right? So look at people who try and sell Amazon and they end up with crappy stuff from China, and they're in their living room trying to repackage thousands of things. I know my brother did that. He's like, kill me now. So you want to have good quality, because you're gonna die if you don't. And that's what I went through. And now I have a good engineering team, amazing, because we acquired a company finally in 2015. So that's the thing, is really look for the quality. And that was the number one mistake we made when we started.
Amazing. Last question. If there is an entrepreneur you can think of, dead or alive, you can sit and have a conversation with, who would it be, why, and name something you would ask them.
My childhood hero was Ferdinand de Lesseps, who dug the Suez Canal, and amazing entrepreneur. And then he went and tried to dig the Panama Canal, and what defeated him, of course, was the yellow fever at the time. And the Americans finished the job because they finally had vaccinations for it. And I would sit down with him and ask, well, how'd you raise all that money? I mean, it was expensive. And he raised these bonds to build the Suez Canal, and it worked out great. And then he had this monumental failure with the Panama Canal. And I would want to know, you knew that there were illnesses in the jungle in Central America, so what were you going to do about it, right? Egypt is not Panama, right? So I would say I really want to know how come he went down that road and ended up failing the way he did. But I've a man with immense drive, and I think he'd look at the Suez Canal is an amazing canal. It's just, to this day, straight as an arrow through the desert. Did a great job.
That is all for this episode of The Gold Mine. There is more to come, so please subscribe to this channel. I want to thank Riggs Eckelberry for his time and for his sharing his journey. And if you would like to be a guest on The Gold Mine, please go to the website that is in the description below. Thank you once again. Have yourself a great day.